What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. On today's video, I'm going to be reviewing for you all the newest launch from Miss Charlotte Tilbury. We have here the Pillow Talk Beautifying Face Palette, and I have the shade medium to deep. If you can't tell, I am super pale. So in this review, I'm going to be giving you guys daylight swatches, demos, comparisons, all that good stuff, but I'm also going to be commenting on whether or not I think this works for fair skin, and also if I think this is going to work out for my medium to deep friends out there. So if you guys are interested in hearing all of my thoughts, then keep watching. And if this happens to be your first time here, then welcome. My name is Sophia, and this is my channel where we talk about all things beauty and luxury. Every single week, I upload content on all the newest beauty releases. So if you love Charlotte Tilbury, if you love Pat McGrath, Natasha Nona, maybe a little Dior and Tom Ford, then you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button to join our fam because we have so much fun on this channel. And you can also click that notification bell to hear about every time I upload a new video. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, guys. It really helps me out. And I will be linking everything that I mentioned in this video, anything that is still available, including what is on my face and all the comparison products, in that description box down below. Most of my links are affiliate links, so shopping through those links is a really great way to support my channel at no additional cost to you. Okay, party people, let's get into this review. I feel like I am the last person on YouTube to be reviewing these. Unfortunately, it took a very long time for my order to get to me. I think I ordered this in the pre-order and it just took way too long. There were more releases, more holiday reviews, but I do want to give you all my thoughts on this palette. I do have quite a few thoughts, and I think that this review is going to be helpful so you can figure out if this is something you need to add to your collection. If you watched my Pass or Yes video a couple weeks back, I did tell you that I was going to be buying this palette, but I did not know that there were going to be two palettes. So there's actually two palettes in this collection. There is a fair to medium, which I'll put an image up here so you guys can see what that looks like. And then I have the medium to deep. I was gonna buy both, but you know what, friends? I thought about it and I really didn't want the fair to medium. It's very pink, it's much lighter in color story, and I just felt like it was gonna be super similar to a lot of things that I already have from Charlotte Tilbury and other brands. I like deeper and richer tones on the face, even though I am very pale. It's not super often that I reach for like a light pink bubblegum blush. I'm usually reaching more for like nude tones, peachier tones. And when I saw the medium to deep palette, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I was very much drawn to this kind of like bolder, redder blush. That's the kind of tones that I like to use, especially in the fall and winter. So you guys will see how I apply these in the demo, but let me tell you some basics about this palette. These retail for a whopping $75. That's also the reason that I didn't get the lighter one. These are just so expensive. That is, if I recall correctly, the typical price for one of these palettes. Charlotte Tilbury released a Nudegasm palette. I think it was about a year ago at this point, and it was a very similar price point. She called that one a universal palette, but it very much was only suitable for sort of fair to light skin tones. I'm going to do some comparisons with that palette a little bit later in this video, but I was really happy to see two shades for this palette because the Nudegasm really just wasn't very comprehensive and usable by a lot of people, and I know a lot of folks, they do enjoy the formula of these palettes, myself included. This palette has an 18-month shelf life and it is made in Italy. As I mentioned, I purchased this off of the Charlotte Tilbury website, but I have noticed that these are now available at Sephora, so you could get them in the upcoming Sephora VIP sale. If you have Sephora in your country, I'll link some more retailers down below where you can find this palette. Now it's time for some close-ups and swatches. Let me show you what this looks like in natural light. I definitely was thinking that this palette, just kind of based off the promo photos, was gonna be a little bit peachier, but I definitely think this is more of it's a Pillow Talk themed palette. It is fairly pinky. It's gonna have a little bit more of a peachier tone than the fair to medium. And of course, we're getting that bolder red tone, but I did think it was going to be a little bit peachier, so I'll just kind of point that out. This is very much a like pink Pillow Talk themed palette. Also, can we just look at the stunning packaging of this palette? I will show you guys some close-ups here in natural light. I love the beautiful, I don't know if this is like mother of pearl or opal. It is just stunning. It actually matches, I will show you all here, it matches the Multiglows that she launched earlier this year in the first Pillow Talk collection that she had. Let me give you guys a little tour of this palette so we can get an idea of what formulas we're working with. Up here in the upper corner, this is a soft blush. This is described as a peachy rose matte blush. Then right here we have what Charlotte says is a super glow, and it says on her website gold highlighter. This is not a gold highlighter. This is like a soft light pink. You guys will see from the swatches and later on in the demo. It's definitely not gold. I don't know why she describes it that way. And then this shade right here, this is supposed to be one of her Multiglow highlighters in the shade Dreamlight. If you guys are familiar, I reviewed this product for you earlier this year. Charlotte came out with these. These are the Pillow Talk Multiglow highlighters. This is the shade Dreamlight. So we've got the sort of different stripes of colors. If you swirl it around, you get a color that is all of those shades mixed together. That shade is supposed to be this. So you can kind of see right there, this upper shade is supposed to be this. I'm gonna do some comparisons a little bit later in the video, but upon first glance, when I opened that up, I was super surprised to hear that because this looks much pinky and more corally than this. But once again, we will do some comparisons a little bit later in the video. And then this bright blush in the bottom right-hand corner, this is called the Super Blush, and this is described as a warm rose matte blush. Now that we got those swatches out of the way, it's time for the demo. I'm gonna be showing you guys how to apply this to your face. Now, not only do I apply this to my cheeks, but I also have applied it to my eyes. So I'm gonna be showing you guys how you can get this full Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk monochromatic kind of look. So let's dive into that. Starting off, I went into the soft blush. I found this super easy to pick up. I think I went in with a goat hair brush, something that's a little bit smaller. I don't find the shade to be super overwhelming. It's a super soft shade. I also felt like it blended out perfectly. I think the goat hair brush is perfect for picking up the color. I know that with many of other Charlotte's face palettes in the past, this has been very much kind of like a baked formula that is a little bit harder to pick up. So that's why I tried the goat hair brush first. And I definitely think that this works very well. Next up, I went into the Super Blush. That is that bright red blush. And I want to show you all how you can make this work for fairer skin if you are fair. And then we're going to build it up in just a second. So this time I took a fluffier synthetic brush because I think if you are super fair, you do run the risk of getting that dreaded like spot that you can't blend out if you go in with a smaller brush. So go in with something that is a little fluffier. Maybe you have a powder brush in your collection, something that you use for sort of like all over face powder or bronzer. Go in with that brush and try and pick this up, and it'll help create a little bit more of like a blended effect. I thought that this was super easy to go in very light, blend it out. I actually love the tone of this blush. I'm trying to think, I don't think I have anything quite like this in my collection. I have some blushes that are more of a terracotta. I have some that are more of a like deep purple berry shade, but I don't have anything that is exactly this color, if I'm not mistaken. I also want to show you what this looks like when I try to build it up. So I really digged into the pan and then I tried to build it up on my hand. And what you're seeing here is that you can build this up. It's a very buildable blush. So I am pretty confident that if you have kind of like a medium to deeper skin tone, you can really build this up. And keep in mind, like I'm using a larger, fluffier synthetic brush. If you have a deeper skin tone, go in with that smaller like goat hair brush if you want to pick up even more and really build up the color. Now we got to dip into the highlighters. So I went into the Super Glow. That is the light pink shade. I'm using a very light and wispy brush because this is a very pigmented highlighter. You're going to get a lot of glow. It is called Super Glow, so at least I would expect that if it's called Super Glow. I do think that this has a little bit of sparkle. This is not going to be similar, for example, like a Chanel face illuminator, which has more of like an ethereal, smooth, lighter type of glow. This is a very bright highlighter and it does have a little bit of glitter. I am a little bit concerned how this is gonna look on deeper skin tones because it is a tad icy. I think often with pink highlighters, they tend to be more suitable for lighter skin tones because they pull a little bit icy. So you guys comment down below, let me know what you think, just kind of looking at this on my skin tone. If you have more of like a tan, olive, or deeper skin tone, do you think that this highlighter is gonna work for you? Lastly, I went in with the Multiglow shade, and because this is a darker highlighter, the way that I like to use it as someone who is very fair is kind of like a glowy blush. I've showed you guys this technique in the past, but my favorite brush to use for this is the Sonia G Smooth Buffer, or if you have any other kind of maybe slightly stiffer, like flat top brush, or maybe even a like fluffier blush brush, instead of going in with that tiny highlighter brush, go in with something fluffier, and I like to take that and just buff it into the blush. And this is going to give you a really similar effect to like the Charlotte Tilbury Glow Light wands, but more so in a powder formula. This Multiglow does swatch very dark, but it doesn't come across as particularly dark when you're layering it over that blush. I think it just adds a really nice like illuminated glow to the face. If you have a deeper skin tone, once again, go in with a smaller brush. You can use that as your actual highlight, but for me, I do have to kind of buff it in just a little bit to kind of make it work for my skin tone. So this is the look that we created on the cheeks. You guys can tell the difference between sort of the lighter blush and highlighter side and the deeper blush and highlighter side. I love both of them. I actually think that all of these products perform very well. I didn't have any issues picking up the product with synthetic brushes, with natural hair brushes. I thought everything buffed in really well. One call out is that the lighter highlighter, it is a little bit icy. It is slightly glittery. So that is something that I think you guys should keep in mind. But in general, I really like the way all of these performed. On my cheeks today, by the way, I did mix both of the blushes, and then I went in with the Multiglow, and then I went in with the lighter highlighter on top. So I kind of mixed everything together. I filmed the demo yesterday. So just want to let you guys know today, this is sort of what it looks like when you have a mix of all those tones. Up next, I'm going to show you how I got this eye look. I love using face palettes on the eyes because, I don't know, it's just very effortless. I love that sort of monochromatic kind of look. It's very fresh. It looks very youthful to me. And I also think it's a really great way to get your money's worth because you're paying $75 for this face palette. So you might as well use it as eyeshadow as well. So the first thing that I did is I went in with the lighter blush in on the crease. I think this looks really pretty. I love the slight peachy corally tone that I get from this. Thought it was really easy to blend. I do think that this blended better with a natural hair goat brush than it did with synthetic. I kind of bopped between both of them. I've been testing out different brushes with this formula, and I do think using the natural hair for sort of the two matte blush shades is the way to go. Next up, I went in with the Multiglow and I just put that all over the lid. Oh, this is such a good, like, classic Charlotte Tilbury shade to use all over the eyes. This would be a really great one and done type of look. I really like the way that this looks on the lid. Next up, I went into the Super Blush and I put that in the outer corner with a fluffy brush, just sort of blending it out, creating like a very soft amount of depth. Nothing too crazy. I'm not using this as like a super smoky palette, and personally, I don't want to use like a deep red shade super packed on in the crease because I don't want my eyes to look like red. I don't want to look like I have a rash or anything like that. So I think the key here is just going in super soft, and I really enjoy the soft amount of depth that this shade gives me. I also went back into Dreamlight and I just kind of brushed that along the lower lash line to start building up the look. And finally, I went in with the Super Glow. This is stunning as an inner corner highlight. First I did that, and then I also popped that into the center of the eye just to add a little bit more illumination. If you guys have watched my tutorials before, like, my looks are pretty wearable. They're not too crazy. I'm not a makeup artist. This is the kind of look that I would do, and I love adding a little bit of sparkle on the lid. So finally, I put on some mascara, no eyeliner because we're keeping this very soft and romantic, and this is the final look. This is what it looks like with the palette on both the cheeks and the eyes. I think it looks gorgeous. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I had a lot of fun playing with this palette, and I really, really liked the look that I came up with. I hope you enjoyed that demo. Next up, we're going to get into some comparisons. I'm going to be comparing this palette with some of the other popular, very similar products that are already in the Charlotte Tilbury collection. I know that the comparisons make the video just a little bit longer, but this section is so important because this is where we realize maybe I already have this in my collection. Is this going to be worth $75? This makeup just keeps getting more and more expensive. And so I'm here to help you guys understand if this is something you think is going to work for you, and if it's something that is going to be somewhat unique in your collection. So first up, I want to compare this up against the other Charlotte Tilbury face palettes that I have in my beauty vanity. The first one being Nudegasm. Now, I think we can all agree, like, these palettes really aren't the same, but I did just want to show you a quick side-by-side so you can get a sense for the different tones. I don't think that the blush that is in Nudegasm is really similar to anything that is in this one. The undertones are completely different, and also Nudegasm is so light. Like, I think that this palette just doesn't really work very well for medium to deep skin tones. Obviously, like maybe the blush and the highlight would, but that palette includes both a bronzer and a contour, and they're just so light. So I did want to show you a quick side by side of that as well. Next up, I have a limited edition palette that launched, maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't even keep track now, guys. This is from the Glogasm collection, and this palette is called Lovegasm. This was the darker of the two palettes that she launched in that year. I don't know what it is, guys, but I always like the darker palettes, and this one does work for me. Seeing these compared, I think that Lovegasm, it's more of a warm and summery kind of vibe. I think that the tones here, they're more coral as opposed to pink. Like, the undertones are pretty different. Let me know what you think, but personally, I also think that this is a slightly different formula. It's very clearly like a baked gelée type of formula, and I don't know what it is about this. I've heard some other reviewers say that this is also a baked formula, but I think that this formula is easier to pick up. I think with some of these other palettes, like the Nudegasm and the Glogasm, you do need to have more of like a hardier goat hair brush to really pick up the pigment, and I also think sometimes you run the risk of hard pan. I love those palettes, but I do think that the pigment is a little bit harder to pick up. So I want to mention that if you tried those out and you felt like they maybe were a little bit frustrating for you, maybe check this one out, because I've had no problem picking up all of the color and applying it to my face. Next up, I am going to compare this palette up against the Multiglows that launched earlier this year. I have both Romancelight and Dreamlight. Now, these palettes, because they are kind of like a 5-in-1, you're getting 4 stripes of colors, and then you also can mix them together. First up, I'm going to show you the swatches of all of these separate colors that are in each pan, and then I will show you a comparison of all of the colors swirled together. I think that'll be the most organized and best way to do this. So first up, we have Romancelight. This was the lighter of the 2 Multiglows that she launched earlier this year. It's very icy. It's very much good for fair skin tones. I think that this pulls, I don't know, if you're medium or deeper tone and you want like an icy pink highlighter, that is totally fine. But if you're looking for something more natural, Romancelight isn't the first thing that I would recommend. Let me also show you what this looks like when you swirl all of the colors together. I don't think that these are similar. My guess is that Romancelight probably has more similarity with the fair to medium palette in this collection. So I don't know, I think it makes sense. I wasn't really expecting these to be too similar. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, we need to compare this palette up against the Multiglow in Dreamlight. I love the shade Dreamlight, so I was really interested in seeing, are these similar? Because they don't really look like they are. And you know what, friends? I don't think these are the same at all. Let me show you the side-by-side swatches. I think that Dreamlight is much peachier. I don't personally think that any of the shades in this highlighter match up with the shades in this Pillow Talk Beautifying face palette. And when I mix all of the shades together similarly, I still don't think any of them match up. If anything, like, I think that this Multiglow that's in the face palette, it's more of a coral highlighter with gold sparkle. You can clearly tell that there's like gold shimmer in there, and I just don't really get that corally undertone from Dreamlight. So just want to point that out. If you have Dreamlight, like, it's not the same. If anything, this is a bonus for me because I already have this. But if you were like, oh, you know, what a great value, like I always wanted Dreamlight, they're really not the same. I think that they're both beautiful, but this one much more like corally pink, and then this one much peachier, not the same. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light wands. I've been using them pretty much ever since they came out. Even the darker shades, I love to kind of blend those in as a glowy blush topper. I just love glowy blush, all right? And what I love about the Multiglows and what I love about this palette is that I think you can get a very similar effect if you prefer a powder formula. I think sometimes it can be hard to work with creams. Not everybody wants to work with creams. I really don't like the packaging of the Beauty Light wands. And I don't know, sometimes if you have fair skin, it's just easier to buff and blend in if it's in a powder formula. So I do want to compare with you guys. I have, I think, all of the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light wands. So I want to compare those to the shades that are in this palette. The first two that I want to compare is the shade Pillow Talk and Pillow Talk Medium. I think what you're going to see here is that Pillow Talk is a little similar to the Super Glow shade that is in this palette. It's not exact, but it's fairly similar. I think the main difference here is that the one in this palette, when I apply it to the face, it's a little more glittery. Like, I would be more hesitant to buff this one all over the face just because it has more of that shimmer, whereas with the Beauty Light wand, I feel pretty comfortable just kind of like dotting that all over the cheek and blending it in with my fingers. Pillow Talk Medium, however, it's much darker and it's also more of a nudie tone. You really don't get that sort of nude tone from this palette. If you like that, I would sort of point you more in the direction of the Nudegasm palette. But yeah, Pillow Talk Medium, I don't think it's similar to any of the shades in this palette. Next up is a comparison with Pinkgasm and Peachgasm. These aren't exact, but it's kind of like same, but different. Like they're sort of similar to some of the shades in this palette, but none of them are either that peach or that pinky. I'm curious if the Pinkgasm is similar to any of the highlighters in the fair to medium palette in this collection. I almost think that the Super Glow shade kind of looks like a mixture of Pinkgasm and Peachgasm. Finally, I have a comparison with the shade Spotlight. This is very much a classic champagne highlighter, so it really isn't similar to any of the shades in this Pillow Talk palette. If you want something that's more classic highlighter shade, that's the one to go. Everything that is in this palette is more of a pinkier undertone. All right, friends, I hope this review has been helpful for you so far. Now it is time for my final thoughts. And if you are new here, whenever I give my final thoughts, I like to go through what are the things that I think are really great about the product, and then what are some of the things that should be considerations, because most of the makeup that I review is actually pretty good, but that doesn't mean we have to run out and buy everything. We need to be thoughtful with where we spend our money, especially during this holiday season. There's so many new releases. So let's start off with the things that I really like about this palette. The first thing, it's just stunning. I love the way that these products look on my face. It looks so romantic, so beautiful. This is the type of thing that I reach for when I just want to feel real pretty and I want something that's super easy and effortless and natural. I think that all of the powders worked very well. I thought they were easy to pick up. I watched a couple of other reviews after I tried this for the first time, and it seemed like some people were maybe like a little bit disappointed with the quality. I don't know, here and there I heard grumblings, but I don't agree with that. Like, I think that the quality here is fantastic. Like I said earlier in the review, I think that this is actually a lot easier to work with than some of her other baked gelée palettes that she's come out with in the past. I'm not super mad that there's no bronzer or contour in here. I already have tons of bronzers and tons of contours, but I understand how maybe that might be disappointing to you if you're someone that really wanted kind of like an entire look in one. But if you're looking for something like that, she does have that instant look in a palette line. So I kind of think that those are a little bit more suited to that type of customer. But yeah, I just think that this is absolutely stunning. I'm really happy with the quality. Personally, I really like all of the tones that are in this palette. What's great about it is that you can get an entire look with just this. You guys saw, like, we put this on the cheeks, I put it on the eyes. This is really all that I would need to bring with me if I wanted to create an entire look. And I think that's good because you're paying $75 for this. And so you want to get the best value as humanly possible. If you're someone that doesn't have any Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow palettes now, and you've always been wanting them, you can get a very similar look with this palette. You don't need to buy an additional eyeshadow palette. You can have everything in one, and you can get that very beautiful pinky monochromatic, like romantic kind of Charlotte Tilbury look. Now, do I think this is going to work for most skin tones? I think that it's going to work for a lot. I do. I'm a little bit curious though if this shade is going to be a little too icy on deeper skin tones. So this is where you guys need to help me out. If you have a deeper skin tone and you picked up this palette, please sound off in the comments down below and let me know how you got along with that. I think that these three shades will work for a lot of skin tones. But once again, it's a little bit harder for me to judge because I am so pale. Part of what I wanted to do in this video is show, like, if you are paler, how can you kind of make these types of shades work, because that's the only thing that I'm working with here is a very fair skin tone. Putting all of the good aside, what are the considerations that you need to have about this palette? What are some of the things that I'm like, maybe you don't really need that? The obvious one being, we've just seen this so many times. When I first saw the promos for this palette, my instant reaction was like, really, Charlotte? Another Pillow Talk collection? We just came out with a Pillow Talk collection in the beginning of the year, the one that had these multi-glows. There was another eyeshadow palette. Like, we already got full on Pillow Talk. It's like 50 shades of pink up in here. Everything is very same, but different. If you already have blush singles from Charlotte Tilbury, if you already have any of the Pillow Talk eyeshadow palettes, I think there's at least 3 quads and 1 larger palette out there. And then in a lot of her limited edition holiday palettes, she's also released like similar pinky shades. You know, if you have the Beauty Light ones. Like if you have a lot of these products already, you absolutely don't need these palettes. And after watching a couple other reviews, it seems like a lot of people feel the same way, where they like this palette, but they just don't really feel like it brings anything new to the table. Personally, I really enjoy it. Like I just like these types of palettes. I don't have any blush or highlighter singles from Charlotte Tilbury. I just have those two palettes that I showed you, and then I have the eyeshadow palettes. So for me, I enjoyed this edition, and I got the medium to deep because for me, this was something a little bit different. I really do like this blush, but as you guys saw in the comparisons, a lot of the stuff that she's come out with before is just very similar. What I think I would have liked to have seen from Charlotte is maybe 3 palettes, kind of like what Hourglass did, that have different tones of bronzers and maybe different blush colors. You know, maybe we get some purples or maybe some browns or pretty much just anything other than pink or like a nudie pink. Could we have taken the Nudegasm and actually made it for all skin tones, make 3 palettes for like fair, medium, and deep? Or we could have even made like the Pillow Talk version of the Nudegasm where you're getting the bronzer, the contour, the highlighter, and the blush, but once again, making it for more skin tones. I don't know. I think that this is gorgeous. It's just so similar to what we have in our collections already. If you're somebody that you enjoy Charlotte Tilbury and you have Pillow Talk things from her already. The other 2 things that I think you guys need to take into consideration is that with this, because it's very one note, you're really only gonna get one look. Every time I use this palette, I'm probably gonna do the same thing. You don't really get that much variety. So keep that in mind. There's other palettes out there like from NARS, from Hourglass, from Pat McGrath that are launching this holiday season that have more of a mixture of tones. So if you're somebody that maybe you don't have a lot of blushes, or when you look at a palette, you want something where depending on your mood, you can like go a little bit more pink, go a little bit more purple, more nude, be a little bit more of like an artiste, then this probably isn't going to be a good palette for you because it's going to be very one note. The last thing is that this is a pretty glowy palette. If you don't like glowy blush, if you don't like super intense highlighter, don't get this palette. The Super Glow shade in particular, it's very bright. It's a little glittery. I don't notice chunks of glitter on my face, but it's just a very illuminating highlighter. And then this one, I use it as a glowy blush. So if that's not really your jam, if you're not going for that, I know a lot of my subscribers, you guys say you have more mature skin and you just don't reach for those anymore, then this isn't going to be for you. Like I said a second ago, there's a lot of other brands that are launching face and blush palettes this holiday season. We have this one, we have the Hourglass palettes, which I reviewed all 3 of those for you guys. We have the 2 limited edition holiday palettes that are coming out from Pat McGrath that have, I think, 4 blush shades and a highlighter. We have the yearly NARS palette. There's a lot of blush palettes that are out on the market. If you guys are curious which ones have been my favorites so far, I would say my favorite has been the Tiger palette from Hourglass, and then this would be a close second. Those are the 2 that I have the most fun with. I like the deeper shades, and I think that the packaging as well is pretty luxurious. I just like enjoy the entire experience. If you're someone though, like I just said a second ago, that likes more of a variety of shades, then I probably would go with the Pat McGrath because you're getting 4 beautiful Divine blush shades with a highlighter. So that's kind of how I would look at this. You know, I think this is good for those of you that you really want that Pillow Talk look, then go for this. But if you just want like a really good everyday blush palette, then I would probably get the one from Pat McGrath because I think it's a really good deal. Anyway, friends, I hope that you enjoyed this review. Sound off in the comments down below and let me know what you think. I know that we're always very opinionated whenever Charlotte Tilbury comes out with something, especially when it's a part of the Pillow Talk collection. So I would love to hear all of your thoughts. If you like this video and you found it helpful, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It's a great way to support my channel. Once again, I'll be linking everything in the description box down below that I mentioned and everything that is on my face today. And if you have not subscribed and you are still watching this video, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button to join our fam. We have tons of fun on this channel. We love talking about makeup, super honest, just genuine, authentic reviews, chatting about makeup. Would love to have you as a part of my community. And with that, friends, I hope that you are having a fantastic day and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.